All right. Hey, everybody. I believe we are all good. We're just double checking our sound. There we are. Beautiful day. Hello. Welcome to Critical Conversations for, what is it today? It is the 17th of November in the year of our Lord, 2023. And as you can see, I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
And here we are for Critical Conversations this week. Thanks for joining us, guys. I really appreciate your viewership and your support. It's interesting because I think there was some support coming in before the comments started appearing. And so anyway, I want to thank everybody who is helping here and acknowledge all the usual critics and suspects in the comments. Hey, Anthony, Stuart, exactly. Henny, excellent, everybody. Leslie, hope you're feeling better, Leslie. She emailed me earlier. So anyway, here we are. Yeah, Melissa does love that. That's why I say it. So here we are. What a week. What a time to be alive, as always. May you live in interesting times. Well, I think we certainly do. What do you think?
Yes. In fact, we could slow down on the interesting part, maybe.
Right? A little bit. Maybe make it a little less interesting these days. Okay, so much to talk about. And I have, of course, notes for us. But first, we have our... yes, that is a very sweet looking book on my desk there, isn't it? Thank you, Jeff, for noticing. Yes, it is. I do not drink boxed wine and cry. Thanks for asking me there, Chris.
No. But I do drink wine.
But Mel does drink wine. I don't actually.
Not usually boxed, but.
Yeah, that's right. We were amazed at the fact that in Barcelona, they had boxed wine in the grocery store way before it was legal here. This was a few years ago. And it was cheap.
Yeah, they had all kinds of cheap wine. And it wasn't all nasty. You know, like if you saw a bottle of wine here for $3, you'd be like, I don't know. But a bottle for like €3 or €4, it might not be that bad.
Yeah, exactly. My alcohol drink of choice, Anthony, is mixed drinks. I like fruity drinks and straight, whiskey, rum. I don't really like straight vodka or tequila. It's too harsh.
It is harsh.
Usually mix it up. My very first mixed drink I will never forget because it was green. It was called an alien secretion.
That's an awful name.
Yeah, alien secretion. I got it at the bar right next to the Santa Barbara Church of Scientology and loved it. Fell in love with it. Apparently, the more general term for that drink is an Alabama Slammer, I'm told. So, if you know what the Alabama Slammer is, it was quite good. I have not had electric lemonade. I don't know what that is.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I should know what that is, but
yeah. Appletinis, yes, I had. I went and did a talk years ago in Wichita, and there was a bar there that had about 40 or 50 different variations on its menu of martinis.
Oh, yeah.
Fruity,
Sounds
chocolate, like all kinds of flavors. Blueberry pie martini, and they were so good. I had to stop myself before I imbibed too much and made a public fool of myself. I knew I needed to stop.
Yeah, when you're starting to say and do certain things, it's like,
I was feeling
I'm done for the night. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, vodka and Mountain Dew. Interesting.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, no, I've not had that, Anthony. We're not really fans of Mountain Dew.
I've mixed vodka with a lot of things. I'm not sure if I've ever mixed it with Mountain Dew, though, but I've mixed it with a lot of things.
Yeah, not my drink of choice. Now moving on from this topic, because that was an interesting random topic. Quote of the week.
Yes.
Okay, and this is in alignment with the topic for the show
about
this week.
Survival of trauma in general.
Yep.
Some people survive and talk about it. Some people survive and go silent. Some people survive and create. Nikita Gill.
There you go. Some people this, some people that. And it's true. everybody
We all have
has
different ways of dealing with it.
That's
yeah.
right. Exactly. We're going to talk about that tonight.
Yeah.
But we have a few things first to go over. Starting with Benson Cam.
Woohoo.
You know you came for it. Here it is. Our Snuggles, not Struggles Cam. And it will pop up here in a second. And there's our little ball of furry joy. Caught him in the office here today, and you can see there's little bits on the floor from outside. He is
just drags everything
He's
in.
wonderful at that. I actually stepped on a little spurry,
I remember.
thorny thing. No, last night.
Oh, God, another
it was
one.
even
Okay.
worse.
This guy picks up everything in his fur and brings it inside.
Oh,
All the
everything.
leaves.
All the things. But you can see him being a little snuggle muffin right now. He's Mel was trying to get him to there's Mel's feet.
Yep, there's my feet.
And he was being kind of chill today. We took him out for 2 walks today.
Yeah, he is lucky. He loves his little walks.
Oh, yes, he does. And he is absolutely getting he's really, really, like I was mentioning a couple weeks ago, it feels more and more familiar. He's feeling more and more included or cooperative or something with us. And I think
much more cuddly.
I think if I well, I guess we could say, I mean, I said I wasn't, when we weren't having him sleeping with us.
Right.
I wasn't going to have him on the bed.
Yeah.
And now we changed that a month
2 months ago.
Yeah, a couple months ago. And something changed with him. I think that definitely changed something with his comfortableness with us or something. It was cool. So 6 walks. Wow.
Yes,
that's a lot of walks.
Laura, he is definitely a beautiful color. He's
he is.
Very pretty dog.
That's right. Yeah, very much so. So we're loving Benson, and he's loving us, and everything's going good there. Okay, so where are we at here? I think we're just a few minutes in. Yeah, let's go ahead and get 2 things. Because I didn't have multiple topics necessarily this week. It wasn't like there was some big Scientology or cult thing this week. It was pretty chill, actually, for the most part. We'll cover, the Scientology stuff with Tony, and you'll get that on Monday. Yeah, for a while, Benson was not going to be in the bed, but now he is.
And we didn't technically choose the name Benson. He came with that name.
Correct, because he's a rescue. We got him when he was just coming up on 3 years old. And this show is not going to be a podcast. This is just our kind of Let the Hair Down Friday live stream. So I have not turned this into a podcast format. I guess I could eventually, but I'd have to pay for it. And I have to actually set up a couple other things first. So support the channel, and then I can. Is actually kind of goals. Yeah, actually, if I am honest about that. So I'd love to. I have no problem with making this into an audio podcast, which could get posted weekly as well. But I would need more support for that, to be honest. So, okay.
Like an assistant.
Well, not that bad, but I mean, I'm just talking about financially. But
I know.
because it's kind of wild. It's like $200 or something for a couple years of podcast hosting.
Wow,
now that's
Jesus.
they charge, and that's what it costs for the server fees and stuff. So it's just that's what it is.
And then the streaming services don't give you the cut they should.
Oh. Please don't get me started on YouTube right now.
Well, it's not just YouTube. It's all the streaming services.
Yeah, all the streaming services. Yeah, then we talk about all the ads. No, we're going to talk about something different tonight. I want to talk about some stuff that might help people out there. I thought we might go over some basics of cult recovery tonight, okay? And so let's just go ahead and jump into that. Let's see. How do I want to start this? Well, let's start with this, okay? When we talk about, or when I talk about, certainly I can say I don't know about the generalized we. I've looked up here, what? I don't know what that's.
Your title? Yeah, your title.
Title, I haven't found it. I don't know which title you're referring to there, Rexican. Please clarify. Okay, so what am I talking about when I talk about cult recovery? What is that? What is that, a state you achieve? Is that like the state of clear where you can attest to it? I'm now recovered. For some time I've thought about that, and I've actually said on mic, hey, I feel like I'm at a recovered point when it comes to what I consider a point of, okay, I'm kind of over it now, right? I mean, it's only been 10 years. How long are you supposed to hold on to this stuff and keep saying, well, I'm not over it yet? I think I am. I think that doesn't mean, though, that there aren't more changes in the future,
Right.
and there isn't more growth, and there isn't more onion layers, and there isn't more to get. That's life. That's continuing realizations about your past based on present changes and new perspectives and new ideas, and your brain changes and you come up with a new way of thinking about something. You go, hot damn, never thought about it that way before, and suddenly it feels better, or you feel some catharsis, you feel some release. Something doesn't feel as stressful or anxiety-ridden anymore because of that. Great. You've had another step on recovery. But I believe that there's a point where you can kind of look at it and go, okay, the cult is no longer influencing my thinking. The cult constructs are no longer dominating how I'm thinking about the world. And I think that's not a day one thing. I think a lot of people might imagine that it could be or should be, but it's not, and it shouldn't be. It takes time. There is no substitute for time and experience. I wish there was. God, I wish there was. I wish there was a pill. I wish there was a neo uplink.
If only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question, PTS for life. I will. We will pick up on that. So I wanted to kind of lay this out first as far as, well, what am I talking about when I talk about, the basics of cult recovery? Where are we trying to get somebody? What are these steps, or what are these ideas, or these sort of pieces of advice? And that is all this is, by the way, right? It's not like there's some scientific formulation somewhere of if you do A, B, C, and D, it's a done deal and they're done. There's no part of this that is that worked out yet by anybody anywhere, and anybody who's telling you otherwise is trying to sell you something. So that's an important thing to know, right? Is it's very individual for people because we're all different. We have different genetic makeup. We have different experiences. We have different education. Language matters when it comes to how you think, by the way, and things like that. So we're all very, very different.
Yeah.
We can only speak in categories of experience and categories or treatment modalities. When we get into the psychological treatment methods, we can talk about different methods or techniques you can use with somebody, and some might be better adapted to this person than this person, right? Where we might do cognitive behavioral therapy over here. Maybe we're going to do trauma-focused therapy over here. Different time, different context, different person. Yet maybe we're trying to accomplish the same task of getting a person to a point where they feel they are no longer influenced in their thinking by the cult, and they are no longer holding on to destructive cult habits or action patterns or thought constructs, right? Dogma, let's say, or belief sets that impede the person's ability to get along in the here and now, because the cult keeps interfering in their life mentally, right? Or traumatically, they're depressed, they're down, they're constantly weighed down by the complex PTSD of it, or the other trauma that comes in on it. And that is also something, of course, that we need to deal with in the course of calling ourselves recovered. We all have different flavors of that. Okay. So yes, recovery is basically a lifelong thing in terms of, is there an end? I don't think so. I think by the time,
you never know when something's going to come up. It's like we both have been like that, where we're sitting there and we're like, oh yeah, that's a problem too. And it just, you never expect it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So just to quickly stop Rex question, critical conversations. Yeah, there is no podcast for this episode, so I don't know where you're looking for it or what you're doing. Maybe email me about that. We can have an offline chat about that. Yeah, there is no podcast of this. That's what I've said. There's no podcast version of this show. There's a podcast of my Q&A show, which is every Sunday, called Critical Q&A. And there's a podcast of the Sensibly Speaking podcast, which I post every Saturday. Those are my podcasts. Okay, so that should answer that question. Yes, I think fluffy wickets, that it is exactly what you're saying. In fact, 5 stages applies here across the boards, and it's not just 5 stages of grief. I call it, for myself, 5 stages of acceptance, because that's where you got to get to.
Right.
Right? And that's kind of what I'm sort of inferring here, is there is an acceptance point where, okay, I'm kind of done thinking about this all the time. I'm kind of done working on myself all the time. I'm ready to get on with life and not have this be a monkey on my back anymore, right? Grief is the same, is very much the same way in the effects it has on us. It's not the same in how you deal with it, and it's not the same in what it is, but it's the same in terms of it's a monkey on your back, and it just doesn't, sometimes it just won't come off. And,
it takes time, and it pops up when you are least expecting it.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, exactly, right? Oh, I must tell mom, then remember that she's gone. That's exactly indicative of what I'm talking about. You have to rewire your brain. That's the process. Physically, that's what's going on, right? It's not, I don't think about it. I don't use words or constructs that are of a spiritual nature, right? It's a physical thing. Your brain takes time to rewire itself, and the amount of time you spend working on that and dedicated to rewiring your brain, the faster it's going to go. If you don't spend time doing that, then nothing's going to change. And you'll be out of the cult physically, but mentally you'll actually still be in it because you haven't changed anything about how you think. And that's kind of an important point, right? When we talk about that, when Steve Hassan and other people talk about that cult personality versus, the pre-cult personality, and what are you going to do moving into the future? That's brain rewiring. It's just another way of framing it or talking about it, right? It's not really like you have 2 people living in your head. It's all you. It's just you framing certain experiences one way, and then you get into a cult and you get a whole nother lens through which to look at the world. And you habituate yourself to that to the point where you just can't think any differently. And that's the cult mindset. And coming out of that, if you don't do something to change it, it doesn't just change by itself, not without years and years and years of experience. And that's a very slow process, and who knows where it's going to go. I suggest people take the reins of control on it, know what they're doing, and take steps to help themselves get past and move on past the whole thing. Okay, so let's talk about what some of those things are. Recovering from an abusive experience in a destructive cult like Scientology involves several key factors. And this is for everybody, but not just the people around the person. Also, God, I say this, it sounds so glib, it sounds so simple. It's not. This is not a simple thing to do, what I'm about to say, okay? And it's the first thing. Patience and respect toward yourself.
Sure.
Right? I mean, if you're a friend or a family member of somebody who's been in a cult, have patience and respect, right? But the hard part I'm referring to is having it for yourself. Because we're our own worst enemies in this. And I've seen this, and I've interviewed enough people, talked to enough people over enough time to know it's not just me, right? This is a thing. We just eat ourselves alive inside. And there's lots of ways we can do that, right? So it's important to be patient and respectful when asking questions and when coming up with answers to yourself, not just from other people and not just to other people. Okay, but for the people around somebody who is an ex-cult member, it is important to have patience and respect for them and not talk down to them. We've talked about this before. You're so, I was so waiting for you to get out of that stupid thing. You were such an idiot doing that, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's not the way to go.
God, you must have been just so stupid. How could you have fallen for that crap? That's not patience and respect. And there's really no reason to talk that way to somebody unless you're trying to make yourself feel better. And I don't think that's what this is about. Okay, now next big one, and one that, of course, the entire X-cult community, whether it's XJWs, Mormons, Scientologists with SPTV, or any other group, right? And this goes back even, prior to SPTV with X-Scientology message board and Facebook groups and any and everywhere that people are meeting and supporting one another, is number 2, sharing similar experiences. I know for myself, and again, having talked with many other people about this, there is such a feeling of isolation and solitude and aloneness in coming out of a situation where you have lost your social group. This was, the cult acted as your social network. And when you lose that, there's very heavy, hard feelings connected with that. And it can be really, really hard. So sharing similar experiences with other people, even other ex-cult members, or even other abuse or trauma victims, as we found over the years, there's so much similarity here. So sharing similar experiences and examples can help the person relate and understand their situation better. And that's, I think, the easiest, fastest. Social media. If there is one thing that social media has done for the cult world or ex-cult world that is a huge boon, it is enabling us to find each other so much faster and easier than it ever was before. When pre-internet, you'd just sit in your house and I don't know what you would do. You'd try to maybe go around to churches or something, or find support groups where you could meet in person, right? Maybe take out an ad or something.
Yeah.
What would you do, really? It would be hard. Start talking to professionals or something, or go to the IXA website. But that's again, IXA website. That's internet. Pre-internet, maybe you call them.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you do, right? This is difficult. So the internet has really changed everything.
It has,
right? With how we connect.
It's been great for these kind of things because there are so many different types of support groups out there, and Facebook groups and other social media groups about all kinds of different traumas and support. Yeah,
that's right. Now, PTS for Life asked earlier, how do you handle your own emotions when interviewing people who have similar stories of abuse to your own? Other than putting your TRs in, was there a particularly difficult story? Yes, there is. There have been a number of things that have crossed my path over the years that have been incredibly difficult to hear, both from individuals out of their mouths and things I've learned and read about with other cultic activities or extremist activities. You asked about talking with people and how do you kind of keep your TRs in. So I guess I'll keep it that way, because the most disturbing experience I've ever had with this was actually while I was on my master's program and learning about some really deeply racist, horrible stuff called the Turner Diaries. That was a point of no return for me in my life. That was actually kind of a bookmark moment of, wow, this is how bad it can get, kind of thing. It's like kind of like when you immerse yourself in learning about the Holocaust or something, you're just like, holy fucking cow, how is this possible? But as far as hearing bad things from other people, of course, I've heard, endless numbers of stories about really bad abusive stuff from people privately and publicly. And the only thing I can say now, as far as like, what does it mean to me to, get my TRs in or keep my TRs in, which is a Scientology phrase for keeping your composure, basically, for keeping yourself together, is that I'm there for them. And so even if I'm doing an interview or something, it's about the other person. It's not about me. And so I'm trying to focus on them as much as I can. I tell stories about my own experiences and relate to that because it helps me empathize and relate to and make sure I'm understanding the person. And I think it's interesting to have that discussion back and forth. But as far as them telling me stuff, it's, I'm there for them. So I'm not going to, other than, you know, some of my exclamations, of course. I mean, I don't really keep my TRs in that well compared to an auditor, you know, where I'm always sitting here going, wow, and oh my God, and geez. You know, I'm responsive to these stories. I'm not just sitting here silent and stone-faced. Right. So yeah, but at the end, it's not, you know, I'm trying to just let them have their narrative. So I don't know if that, somehow for me, that's enough. That's a description of it. I hope that helps. I don't know how else to describe it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's really horrifying stuff. And there's, and the Scientology stuff, I mean, there's other stuff. And some of it is really, really nasty. And there's historical precedent, there's historical events that you learn about, you know, that are, well, okay, for example, right, diving into the real specifics of Guyana and Jonestown and the deaths. I mean, over 1,000 people, including children, right? I mean, the nastiest of nasty things happen there. That's hard to go down those paths sometimes, you know, but it's all about framing it in my mind to how can I use this to educate, inform, and help people. And that's how I'm approaching it. And that gets me through an awful lot of stuff because sometimes some days are a little rough. And that's not even like, you know, God, I hope I'm not coming across like it's some sympathy thing or something. It's just the job. It's just the job. That's all. I'm not complaining. It's what I do. You know, it's just, yeah, some days are rougher than others. Okay. Let's go back to next point on cult recovery. Education. Okay. Always talking about this. Well, let me talk about a couple things here. Being well-informed about mind control and learning how to help those that are being influenced is vital. This includes doing your homework, formulating a plan, researching cults and coercive control, and learning about effective communication strategies. I believe this is 101 for ex-cult members. That's my personal opinion of that. I really think this is important, and every single therapist, counselor, cult exit or otherwise, and professional that I've spoken with over the years, and you've heard me in my podcasts, I ask about them, about education and their opinion about it, because often they don't bring it up, and yet every one of them has agreed. Not one person has ever said, oh, no, that's not necessary. That's not important. The only people who do that are ex-cult members. Right? I don't need to know about that. And so I'm encouraging you to actually know, you know, find out about it. Now, understanding the techniques used by the cult for mind control can help the person recognize and break free from the manipulation. But that is just the beginning. Cult members are often assisted greatly by learning more about psychological principles and practices, especially since many cults, not just Scientology, specifically have doctrine or dogma that dismiss psychology as valid and even forbid counseling or therapy outside of the cult's practices. We know Scientology is absolutely bonkers on the subject of psychiatry, but they're really not the only ones.
No, there's all kinds of cults that are against it, and
yeah, you
have to talk to someone in the group to get help, and they'll tell you what to do, and you have to listen to them. And
exactly, it really is truly the cult, right? Because of course that's part of the definition and characteristics of a cult is it's all us. It's all us versus all of them, right? So them includes anybody else practicing other things than what the group is doing. That's another aspect of that high control activity. It's high control. Okay, number 4 on my little list here is rewinding the mind control. Now, this is an additional thing. It's not the same thing as education. It's something that I think comes about as a result of education. And I don't think that this step is very easy to do without some education, okay? And that is rewinding the mind control. Beyond just learning about how people are manipulated and abused, there is work to be done, each one of us individually, in rewinding the effects of the cult's practices. Now, if we go through and we look at what is it that makes a cult, why is it that we call this group a cult and not this group? Well, there are characteristics. And those characteristics include the application in cult activities, high control groups, authoritarian groups. We can use any of these words for this. One for one, you will find these 9, I believe it's 9 characteristics of thought reform, as laid out by Robert J. Lifton in his book, Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism, right? Totalist groups. It's another term we have for these guys. So in walking through those steps, you want to rewind or unwind or undo those things that were done. So, for example, this includes flushing out the loaded language, right? If loading the language and manipulating language and teaching you manipulative language that changes how you think about the world so you'll stay in that cult mindset, then clearly one of the things you need to do coming out of that situation is get that language the hell out of your head. Stop using it. Just stop, and it's going to be hard. And that's the point. That's the point. It needs to be hard. If it's not hard, then, I'd wonder, because loaded language is key to how cults operate. Now, maybe with certain groups, there's only a few keywords. There's only a couple concepts and ideas you got to get rid of, right? In transcendental meditation, radical honesty, some of these other, kind of small time, well, not small time. I don't want to kind of clarify. I don't want to categorize it that way. Radical honesty is not huge. TM is.
That's true.
So, but in these maybe not so complicated, maybe we put it that way, when compared to something like Scientology. Scientology is one of the most complicated belief systems ever devised. There is so much to it. Just volume-wise, I'm talking about, not necessarily the intricacy of the philosophy, although as you guys have, been following me for years now, as I break this stuff down, it's complicated. There's all kinds of stuff to it. And that means that this is why Hassan and John Atack and others have classified Scientology as one of the harder cults to get over because of that loaded language aspect alone. Just that is huge. So undoing that, and there's different ways of doing it. It's not just a matter of, okay, I'm not going to use the language anymore, because that doesn't always work. And there's other things you can do. But flushing that out as a conscious activity is important. Otherwise, you're still thinking like a cult member, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's, you got to change it or you're still going to be it. Okay, so then re-immersing oneself into society. Okay, this is another step, right? Not hiding away, right? Because this is undoing milieu control. One of the things cults do really hard, and they're really good at, is controlling the environment of their members.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right? This is why so many of them...
You can't look at this. You have to do it this way.
That's right. Which is why so many of them want you to live on the property and form these communal, things, etc. Right? PTS for life. Yes, Jeff, I have absolutely spoken to Stephen Kent. In fact, I spoke to him this morning. So yes, I speak with Stephen all the time. He's a great guy. I love Stephen Kent. Okay. So a step to re-immerse it, to rewind that mind control is getting yourself out of an isolated environment and back into the real world. Right? Get going, get out there. Don't hide. Don't stay in your house all the time. Don't introvert away from other people. Now, of course, introverts, extroverts, all that, I know. It's all within the means of what we can do. There's no right and wrong, like you're doing this wrong. You got to figure it out for yourself. These are just general guidelines, okay? But I really, truly believe that getting yourself back out into society and making connections and meeting people is vital to our recovery.
Yes.
Again, this is it's almost a common sense point. We are social creatures. Mm-hmm. This is part of our makeup, right? I will tell him, Jeff. I will give him the message. So, you're going to want to make those connections, because that alone is, I found it personally to be very, very cathartic to share my story with other people who were truly curious and interested in hearing it. And that really helped a lot right off. But it also shows you very quickly how different people out in the big wide world are from the way they were characterized by the cult. And again, if you don't do something to overcome that cultic indoctrination, it'll stick with you, and you'll be distrustful of people, and you won't like people, and people suck and all that. And sometimes people do suck, don't get me wrong, but most of the time they're okay. And the only way to find that out is go meet them, talk to them, interact with them. Join a club, get a hobby, do something that puts you with other people, not beyond your comfort level, or maybe just a little bit. But not.
Yeah, one step at a time.
One step at a time, exactly. None of these suggestions are, excuses to go re-traumatize yourself. Take it one step at a time. This is recovery. This isn't the cult again. Okay, let's see. Unlearning the false cultic dogma. That might take some work. It's easy, unlearning the false cultic dogma. 4 words that entail an awful lot of work. You could have to fact check it to death. You could try to break it down, deconstruct it, watch other people do that. Somehow take it apart. That's part of the skepticism and the reinvigoration of your own critical thinking skills, to do that for yourself. Other people can get you started or can inspire you, but you really should do some of that work yourself too. The ARC triangle and Scientology. Well, is that really true? Is it? Let me take a look at this. Let me write this down. And outside of all the Hubbard speak, what's he saying here? What is this thing? What is this? Are there exceptions to this rule? Could there be? Asking yourself questions like this, right? Jarring yourself into thinking about, rather than just accepting the dogma. It has to be true because he said it. End of story. So, you want to, again, you're training and learning how to overcome that way of thinking by thinking for yourself. And it's a practice. It is. Rediscovering and reinstituting personal boundaries, including choosing on one's own what parts of one's life and actions they want to share with others. It's your choice now.
Yeah, your life is yours. Your privacy is yours.
That's right. The thing that you're undoing here is confession culture, right? Confession is a means of control. Now, confession is truly good for our souls, if not taken to extreme ends or used to extort or blackmail us. It can feel great to get some shit off your chest, right? It can feel wonderful. But when that's used to control you, it becomes tainted and corrupted, and the entire thing gets used against you. And suddenly, trust issues are the order of the day, because who can you trust, and how can you tell, and who do you know that you can tell this to, who isn't going to, all that whole thing. So boundaries are the key word here. And cults, high control groups, specialize in breaking down your boundaries. That's a key part of becoming a cult member, is having your boundaries stripped from you and thinking that's okay. Like going into a mindset where I'm supposed to be fully transparent with everybody in my group all the time.
And when you're outside of a cult, that's not always a good way to make friends. Sometimes people are like, okay, TMI. Exactly.
Hey, Alex, I see you in the chat. Awesome. We're breaking down this cult recovery stuff. So, so the boundaries thing. Yeah. And this actually, it's kind of embarrassing how long it took for me to get onto this one. Like it kind of is, because it was years after I left Scientology that this is something that became really super clear to me as like, oh shit, right. Boundaries. I don't owe the entire world my entire life story and daily event list, daily. I don't need to do that. And every time I sit down with my friends, or my wife, I don't need to give them a blow by blow of every step of a thing I did all day, right? Because it's not necessary. You're not confessing to these people. They don't need to hear it, you know? So that's interesting. It's interesting, right? And again, this is all about, every one of these things I'm suggesting is about taking over your own power of choice over these things. It's not about now I'm going to turn you into an extrovert, and until you are, you're not done. That's not the point. The point is you have power of choice over what you're sharing or not sharing, over what you're communicating or not. And if it's compulsive on your part, as it certainly has been with mine in the past, that I must share, I'm supposed to share, I'm not being ethical if I don't, if that's where you're coming from, I'd invite you to maybe re-examine that point of view, right? And look at boundaries and what they are and why it's healthy to have them. You know, that's, again, part of that education process, which then rolls into this. Okay, then there is examining or becoming familiar with other beliefs and ideas and dogmas, right? And to overcome the high control group, or, you know, the cult's installation of it's our way, period. There is no other way. We have the sacred science. We have the holy truth. We know all. How do you overcome that? How do you rewind that?
Looking into everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Go watch, you know, that series by Penn and Teller called Bullshit. It's wonderful. I think it's 6 seasons or something. They take about all kinds of stuff, right? Read books, right? Go, you know, get on groups, whatever. In doing these, you know, one rolls into the other, and becoming familiar with and learning about other belief sets and dogmas gives you more power of choice over how you want to think for yourself about supernatural things, natural things, your life, your death, your existence, existential questions. These are important questions. They shouldn't be ignored, and they shouldn't just be, oh, well, none of it matters. Yes, it does. These are important things. And if they're important to you, and if you were in a cult where you had a whole belief set connected with these things, odds are this had some degree of importance for you. So undoing that. Okay. And then building back one's ego and identity without reliance on earlier cult habits or values is the final one there, right? Build yourself back up. So many cults, so many abusive personalities, even in domestic partnerships, are all about invalidation. You suck. You're no good without us. You will die without us.
Fall apart, yeah.
There's a million variations on this theme, and every one of them is about making you feel. I see you on the queue there, Travis. Thank you. Every one of these is about, yes, I see that. Thanks for that comment. Anyway, it's about making you feel less, okay? It's about making you feel nothing without the group. The group is all, the individual nothing, right? And I use that term. I'm actually quoting L. Ron Hubbard from Keeping Scientology Working, but I'm using his words against him, right? Because Hubbard asserted, I don't know if you guys know this or not, Hubbard asserted in Scientology that the bank is all, the reactive mind is the thing that considers the group is all and the individual is nothing. And through Scientology, you are building yourself up. The language is all backwards to what they're really doing to you. So this is how screwy this can get and how fucked up your thinking can be after the fact of this, right? So I use Hubbard's words against him on purpose there, right? Because Hubbard was saying constantly that the group was all and the individual is nothing. That's what Scientology is all about. And you're told the exact opposite of that in Scientology, which is just, you know, more of that conditioning. So that rewinding the mind control, everything we just talked about there, that's a really crucial step. And I would say that's actually doing those steps right there, I'll think of as the bulk of what you would think of as the work you're doing in recovery. It's doing those things, right? Rewinding it. But you can't rewind it or undo it if you don't know what it is, which is why those earlier steps are so important.
Right.
Okay, 2 more things here, and then we will... Yes, good. We're almost done. Establishing healthy relationships and building trust. We talked about that earlier a little bit in terms of sharing experiences and building back social networks. Working to establish a relationship and connect with people will build trust. There isn't any other way to trust people except to trust people. And if you can't do that, it's going to take some practice to build that back up. It's going to take practice to figure out what good attachment looks like, what healthy relationships look like, versus the disorganized, chaotic, attachments that were forced on a person in the cult, and the codependency that was forced on a person in the cult. That's got to be overcome, and one of the, you can learn about it, you can kind of mentally undo it, but until you go make social contacts and start learning how to trust people again, how do you get there? You got to do it. Mm-hmm. So that, and then finally, of course, maybe seek professional help, counseling, therapy, I don't know, consultation, anything. Right now, these are different categories of help that will provide different avenues of help, right? Life coaches wouldn't necessarily go there, right? You don't necessarily need a lot of motivational speaking or, somebody organizing your life for you. You kind of try to figure out how to organize your own damn life. And it might take some trauma recovery or some emotional development or some attention on some of those things in order to get back to that, okay? So that's what I've got for today within the time that we have here. So I'm picking up the headphones because I know we have a call in the queue, and he has been very patient. So let's go ahead and get to this. Hello, this is Travis.
Hello.
Hey, man.
It's good to talk to you, Chris.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for calling in. What you got for us today?
I got a great, it's been a great show.
Thank you.
And I think to add to the topic, I have a point of clarity or distinction that I think is relevant. Mm-hmm. And that is that there is a difference between capital T and small t trauma. Okay? Mm-hmm. So you're talking about recovery.
Yep.
And understanding the shades of what trauma is fundamental. Mm-hmm. And somebody even acknowledging what's going on in their head.
Yep.
And I'm sure that this is something that you've grappled with, or everybody, or most people watching. Mm-hmm. Capital T trauma is all the fun stuff that we hear about, living through natural disasters, getting assaulted, fill in the blank there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
The small T
you're
stuff,
talking about like big scale events or very noticeable, obvious stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Like PTSD inducing stuff.
Right. War.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, small t stuff, and by the way, there are plenty of resources online that'll help delineate the full picture of what a capital T trauma is. Small t, though, and this is just as irrelevant, this is the distinction that I'm speaking to here, are highly distressing events that affect individuals but don't fall into the big T category. Okay?
Yep.
These could be emotional abuse, mm-hmm. harassment of any kind, mm-hmm. bullying, mm-hmm. and a loss of a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Can happen at most any stage in life. Mm-hmm. Another point is that repeated exposure to the little t stuff mm-hmm. can and frequently does have a much more profound effect than the big T stuff.
Yep.
Okay, even a single off event can.
Yep.
And another point here is there is a research, and I've seen this recently online, valid research that with adolescents, young people mm-hmm. up to whatever age that's not a thing anymore, even the small T trauma stuff can act directly as a big T trauma event for these people, young men and young women.
Absolutely. Absolutely it can, because they're still developing brains, developing experience, limited education and experience levels, right?
Right.
Yep.
Now, I've talked for about 60 seconds straight here. What do you say?
I say I'm
relevant to
agreeing.
your point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think you're partially delineating also some of the differences between single event PTSD, it is what we call that, right? Single event trauma of magnitude versus a complex PTSD, which is a repeating pattern of traumatic events which cause a similar level of big T trauma, you could say, but it's made up of what we might think of as smaller T or sometimes capital T events, or a mixture of those. Yeah.
Okay. I'll give an example from my own life to help get people to think.
Yeah.
I have lived in Houston for about 12 years. Houston, Texas, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all watching this, don't go there. It's not a nice place for the most part. It really isn't. So
nothing like that hometown pride.
No, listen, I've lived all over Texas, and I was remarkably surprised with the unfortunate nature of that whole region. Believe me, I lived in more North Texas. Oh, gosh.
Got it.
Listen, so one of the things that big T trauma stuff is our natural disasters.
Yep.
I lived through two of the worst hurricanes in modern American history.
Really?
Did not bother me at all.
Wow.
Yeah, Hurricane Ike and Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
Both
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't have power or water for like 2 weeks. All that stuff you guys see on TV, it was just like that where I was. It didn't bother me at all. It was so bad that this one dude set up I was living in an apartment complex. This one dude set up a grill in the parking lot of the apartment complex and was like, let's cook everyone's meat so they'll have something to eat and it doesn't all spoil, because we didn't have electricity. I mean, literally daylight was the only light we had other than whatever candles we had. I didn't care. I'd been in the service and I was used to austere conditions. So I went to work and came home and went to work and came home and did everything like I normally would.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't bother me. But other people who don't have the same makeup as me, emotional makeup or whatever, that could very well have had a highly destructive and emotionally damaging effect on them.
Correct.
Children, old people.
That's right.
Whatever.
This actually brings to mind something that needs to be said out loud, I think, at this point, which is that trauma is relative.
Yes.
It is relative to individuals. And as exactly as you're describing, Travis, what is one person's traumatic event is another person's picnic. I mean, it really can be vastly different. And it doesn't invalidate the person who's experiencing that trauma just because some person standing next to them didn't experience that. That's a very important point to understand about how this works.
What's going on in your life? I mean, if something else bad was going on, it might have made it worse. But if something not, just kind of helps soften the blow, it makes it less painful.
Exactly. So, and we're just talking about from the psychological perspective, right? This is just an important thing to understand about that. Yeah. So good points, Travis.
So, and I don't want anybody watching this thinking that I'm tooting my own horn here like I'm a big tough guy.
Right, because I know you're not.
I'm not a big tough guy. No.
Okay, well, I don't know that, but I know you're not tooting your own horn. But you are breathing. There is wind in the mic, though.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Look at me. And look, I used to be in broadcasting, too. I should know better. So to juxtapose this with a small T event that did affect me greatly was I dated a woman for quite a while, and she left me. And that really took the wind out of my sails, to piggyback on what you just told me.
Yep.
And it was difficult for several months for me. Now, you think, well, a woman left you. You had two hurricanes. Well, okay. It's just, it speaks to the point of different things affect people differently.
That's right. Exactly.
And it can turn into a traumatic event, small T. Now, I got over it. That was years ago.
Of course.
She did too, by the way. But regardless, those are two examples from my own life that people people watching both now and in the future can help jog somebody's mind. I also want people to check me out. Go online and do the search terms and look all this stuff up.
Yep.
And with that, I'll end.
Awesome, Travis.
Okay.
Thanks for that call. That's a good one, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. All right. Yeah, good stuff there. And, okay, we're coming off the lines of the phone now, so the headphones come off. Okay, that was good. And a very necessary point. So thanks for bringing that up because like I said, this is very individual for each person. That's always been the point. And if any of this that we've gone over today were to be used to judge somebody harshly or evaluate them as to whether they've done their recovery good enough or not, that is not the point of today's episode at all, and that would be a misuse of what we're talking about. This isn't about judgment. This is about helping people. So that's kind of important. All the judgment happens inside the cult. We don't need more of it outside. Not when it comes to this kind of thing, right? There's the fact of recovery and there's the fact of helping people through it. And that's really all that's important at this point, or at this stage of the ex-cult experience. Okay, so with that, I think we're going to have to start moving toward wrapping up.
All right.
Okay, so you go ahead and select our critical thinking card of the week. I still haven't got these guys to sponsor me, and somehow I feel like that's a
tragedy.
I feel like it's a mistake. Like somehow I'm doing something wrong by not making that happen somehow.
Yeah.
But if they, they just, I don't know, they won't answer their emails.
That was a terrible shuffle.
But let me put out for you this weekend. We are having a podcast tomorrow with Miriam Francis. Lighthouse Project, Children's Scientology. She was on Scientology in the Aftermath. She and I, a few weeks ago, had a conversation with her from Australia. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to you guys seeing it and seeing your comments on this. We go deep. We go into all kinds of stuff, and I think it's I hope it will be the first of many conversations that she and I will have, because she's really doing the walking the walk, as well as talking the talk on this recovery stuff. Okay, and then Sunday, it's live. I'm announcing it right now. No equivocation. We're doing it live on Sunday. Okay, I'll post the link tomorrow. It'll be up. We'll be on live at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, which is kind of the usual time I've been slotting in live streams. We've done 2 weeks of pre-recorded Q&A. So this week you get to ask me whatever the hell you want live. Maybe I'll even answer. So let's see what happens on that. And then Monday, as usual, you'll have your After Scientology Straight Up and Vertical. So, and then it's going to be, let's get to the card and then we'll go there.
Okay. So your bias is the just world hypothesis. Your preference for a just world makes you presume that it exists. A world in which people don't always get what they deserve is an uncomfortable one that threatens our preferred narrative. A more just world requires understanding rather than blame. Try to remember that we're all fallible and that bad things happen to good people.
Yes, a key bias there.
Yes, and it goes exactly opposite to one of the most popular attitudes now, where it's like everything is your fault and you did it to yourself.
Well, yeah, that's because guess where we came up with those ideas?
No.
In cults. Okay, and then let's see. Last here, is Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's going to be Thanksgiving next week, right?
Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday. So we're going to see you next week, the day after Thanksgiving. We'll be going live here. We hope you guys will join us. And I'm going to throw out here at the end, if you enjoyed this, if you think that I'm putting out good content, please do like, share, subscribe, get this stuff around, consider supporting the show. Lots of different ways to do that. And of course, by the way, there are 3 chapters in this book right here on the subject of cult recovery, specifically from Scientology, from my early days of recovery. So, my first few years out. So you might find that of interest in this little book right here, which you can get on Amazon as an ebook, published book, or audiobook read by me. Okay, great. Thanks, Fluffy, for the good session. Is your needle floating? Awesome. All right. Let's wrap up. I will see you guys. Well, you'll see me tomorrow, and I'll see you guys live Sunday. Bye-bye.
Good night.